I didn't write anything for this evening because I was coming on after the break, and I thought, oh, it'd be fun to sort of see what comes before me and see if I can weave some of that in. Honestly, the truth is, when you're going after the break, you've got to be a little bit careful, I think, because you might have written a presentation where some of the things that you want to say were said by people before you. And when I looked at who was speaking before me, they work on such incredible projects and things might say might be already covered. So I'm going to make this up on the spot and tell you a story. And the moral of this story is a familiar one. The moral of this story is it takes a village to raise a child. And we'll see, I need a chair if I'm going to tell you a story. It's a Herne Hill story. We just found out we're neighbours. Our kids go to the same school. And that's my website, and they don't look very diverse, all of them, but it might rotate. Is this page rotating? And you might see a picture in a moment of Lav, who you saw in the Great British Diversity video. Indian guy, looks a bit like Jesus. We called him the Indian Jesus. I left school with 3 U's and an F in my CSEs. Some people won't know what CSEs are. Oh, they're like GCSEs, but shit. You can't do much with 3 U's and an F. My mum opened my exam results. And when she read them out, she kind of went, F, U. I've been expelled from every school I've ever been to. Been expelled from one school twice. I grew up in Croydon. Thank you. You might not say that in a second when you hear what I did in Croydon. I grew up in the 80s when cars didn't have very good security. I didn't learn much in school, but I learned if you cut a tennis ball in half, you can get into a Ford Escort in about 15 seconds. And when I was 18 years old, my father was arrested and then made bankrupt. Oh, I've killed the mood, haven't I? And the family house went, and the cars went, and my brother was taken out of school. And I got myself a job in a department store in Wimbledon, selling Royal Dalton figurines to pensioners to put money on the table so that my brother and my mother could eat whilst we were trying to sort my dad out. One day I was up in the staff canteen in Debenhams of Wimbledon, and there was a copy of the Guardian newspaper in the staff canteen. And you've only seen me now for 2 or 3 minutes. Some of you know me, but most of you have only seen me now for 2 or 3 minutes. And you can probably tell I'm not a Guardian reader. At the time, I was more into the Sport or the Star, anything with pictures. But there was a copy of the Guardian newspaper in the staff canteen. And in the Guardian newspaper, there was a competition to win a scholarship at what was the world's top ad school. And the brief was, invent a political party and market it into power. It was a proper middle-class brief. It was in the Guardian newspaper, read by white middle-class men. You don't wrap fish and chips with the Guardian, you wrap tofu with the Guardian. Anyway, cut long story sideways, I used to stand at Royal Dalton concession in Debenhams of Wimbledon. And it was quiet in the afternoons. Pensioners would wake up in the morning, they'd get their pension money, they'd come and buy a Royal Dalton figurine first thing in the morning, then they'll go home and eat cat food for the rest of the day. So I didn't have much work to do for the rest of the day. I would stand there and just write my ideas all day long. And I took my ideas and I brought them home and I put them in my bedroom. And my mother thought I had a drug problem. So she would look in my bedroom for drugs. She was looking for needles and stuff like this, which is stupid, because I didn't do that sort of stuff. She should have been looking inside my books for Rizzlers. Anyway, she looks in my drawer, she sees my ideas for this scholarship competition, and she enters without my permission, and I win a scholarship at this school, and I quit my job, and Dad's out of the nick, and I go and join the School of Communication Arts. where I'm taught by a man called John Gillard, who was the world's greatest creative educator, who taught John Hegarty, Sir John Hegarty, who taught Graham Fink and Alan Parker and Tiger Savage. And on my second day at John's school, John calls me into his office and says, "Mark, we've got a problem." I said, "What's that, John?" He said, "You're not going to be a good writer." I said, "Yeah, I know that, John. I got you in English." He said, "Do us a favour, Mark, read this." And he gives me a book to read. It's called Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. I don't imagine many of us in the room have read it, maybe one or two. Fantastic. My wife's family have got a farm in Woburn, and I'm going there on Easter Sunday. We do this every Easter. Go there at Easter time and go to the farm when the baby lambs are being born. And I go there and I help John, Uncle John, Lamb, get the baby lambs out. And I'm in the fields, and I take a baby lamb that's just born, and I take the baby lamb, seconds old, minutes old, I take it into the farmhouse, carrying it, brand new. And I walk into the kitchen of the farmhouse, holding this baby lamb that's now minutes old, maybe 10 minutes old, and I take this baby lamb right up to the oven, to the Aga, and I put it just outside the Aga, where it's nice and warm. Some of you were thinking I was going to cook a baby lamb. You're sick. Honestly, you're sick. I hate you. And the baby lamb opens its eyes after a little while, and the first thing it sees is a Labrador, a golden Labrador, some of the dogs that we've got at the farm. The lamb opens its eyes, and the first thing it sees is a Labrador, and it believes it's a Labrador. And for the rest of its life, that lamb will grow up believing it's a dog. The first thing you see when you're born burns such an important impression. And the first book I read in my life was that book that John gave me, Future Shock by Toffler. Toffler's still alive. Toffler's still saying some incredible things that matter to all of us, that matter to some of the things that we've heard already this evening. Toffler said not so long ago that the illiterate of the 21st century won't be those that can't read or write, but they'll be those that can't learn and unlearn and relearn. Wow. But that wasn't Future Shock. The opening pages of Future Shock, Toffler says that everything is a process. From the smallest bacteria to the largest galaxy, everything is a process, and all processes evolve. And they're all evolving faster and faster and faster. And he creates this phrase that we now take for granted, exponential speed of change. And today is the 23rd of March, 2016, and the world will never be this slow ever again. And that rocks my world. And I enjoy my time at the school, and I leave. And John, when he opened the school, after a career in university, just as he's about to open this school, he discovers he's got a disease that's going to kill him. But he continues to run the school. He's got Parkinson's, and he's dying. And I leave the school, a changed person, no longer interested in using tennis balls to break into Ford Escorts. And John has to retire with ill health as I leave the school. And a couple of years later, he dies. When I was at the school on my Guardian scholarship, there were two scholars in my year, me and a boy called Dave Bell, who runs Kessel Kramer. We're both white, we're both male, we're both middle class. There was 40 kids in that school. There was one black boy. We called him Black Dave. I leave the school. I leave the school just as Mandela is about to get elected in South Africa. So I moved to Joburg because I want to watch the first free elections in South Africa, and I join an agency called Leah Burnett, and I get to help out and watch democracy born in South Africa. Phenomenal. And I get to watch the Rugby World Cup, which was good as well. One thing leads to another, and I have a career as a dot-com boy, and I pocket a few million, and that's all fine, and learning the sort of stuff that John taught me at the school. And in 2008, I fall out of love with money. VCs, particularly VCs. There are any VCs in the room? I hate you. Really, genuinely, earlier I said I hate you. It wasn't true. This time, if you're a VC, I hate you. And I was chatting to two mates, John Hegarty and Rory Sutherland. And if you know either of them, you'll understand this. If you don't know them yet, I think you'll still understand this. I was chatting to John and Rory. I said, look, we need to reopen a sort of solid creative school. And Rory said, I dare you. And John said, I'll support you. And they became my founding governors. And I created a model that I wish to share with you now called Heroes and Legends. It takes a village to raise a child. My school is the world's top ad school by every measure. We win more D&AD pencils, we win more books at Cream, we've won the Beamer Student of the Year, I think every year since we've entered, and all the other competitions that we enter. My philosophy for my school is we stand for elitism and we want to be inclusive. We play with this dichotomy, this dissonance. Every decision I make as the dean, I gave myself the title of dean, by the way, as a giggle. I've been expelled from every school. I thought it'd be funny to be a dean. We don't need a dean. I just thought it'd be a giggle. Every decision I take as the dean, I wrestle with these two things. I want to be elitist and inclusive. 1 in 3 of my students are on a scholarship. I've got 34 students at the moment. 1 in 3 are on a scholarship. We want to welcome diversity to our school, whatever diversity looks like. When I started this journey and I looked at skill set data, I thought diversity was ethnicity and gender. It's not. I mean, it is that, but it's much more. It's age, it's region, it's physical and mental states, and so much more. We create this with heroes and legends. The industry give us any combination of 3 things: money, knowledge, people. Some agencies are heroes, some are legends, some are more, some are less. Legends give me £20,000 a year. They get a bunch of benefits for that. I won't bore you with those right now, but you can ask me if you want to become a legend over a drink. Heroes give me £6,000 a year, and they get a bunch of benefits too. Sapient, for example, are a sponsor of the school, this building that we're in. They were one of my first sponsors. We take money in other ways. I teach at schools in China and France, and we do live briefs, and all of that helps to create scholarship places. But I won't talk much more about money. Money helps, but it's not the most important thing. That comes later. So back to Future Shock and Toffler. Knowledge. Knowledge decays very quickly. We've been talking about, for example, apps for good and the apps economy. If we are studying in a university, if we're going into creative communications in a university in one of the 124 courses that belong to the D&AD network this year, if we're studying a creative communications degree, we're studying a curriculum that was written when Blair was in power. Knowledge goes out of date very quickly, and we're sending kids into universities to study knowledge that was written when Blair was in power. And if that knowledge was ever written by a practitioner, it was written by somebody who practiced when Thatcher was busy raping minors. So my solution to this is something called Curriculum Wiki. It takes a village to raise a child. Everybody in this room has the right to go to our curriculum, which lives as a wiki, and tell me what they think the students should be learning. Start a unit, upload a PowerPoint or a keynote, upload your work, your books. So once a year, I pause the wiki and I write a play. Every year a new play for my students. This year's play is called Constructed Reality. Next year's play is called Control the Virus. And I write it as an hour by hour, day by day, week by week, what I expect my students to be experiencing in the studio. So we stay up to date by trying to solve what we are hearing from our industry, what their problems are, what we need to do to have talent that's going to fight 21st century problems. Once I've written the play, we come to the third bit, people. Money, knowledge, people. It takes a village to raise a child. I've got 34 students, and I've got just under 900 teachers. I'm hoping this year to be able to say we've broken through the 1,000 teacher mark. Almost all of them are volunteers. Almost all of them live somewhere within London. Not all of them. Some of them travel up or down or sideways to come into the school. You're a teacher at my school if you're going to volunteer at least half a day a year to hang out in my studio with the kids. When I write the play, the story of the year, I then write for my team what sorts of mentors I'd like in the studio each day in the ideal world. And then I have a support team that tries to make sure that we have the right mentors each day so that my mentors have a great experience and that my students have a great experience. So we run an algorithm that we call the mentor percentage rate, and it works like this. My students are in demand. My average student's going to get 20 offers at the end of their course. We're the best school in the world. Agencies know that. That's why they support the school. A good team, an average team in my school is going to get 20 offers at the end of the year. My legend sponsors, those that give us the most money, they get first choice of talent, amongst other benefits. And then Heroes and all the other schools in priority order for their mentor percentage rate, which is calculated by number of staff in their London office, divided by number of mentor days that they've given us, multiplied by 100. So whether you're Sapient with office here and Battersea and well over 1,000 people in London, or Kastner with 16 people in London, you have the same opportunity for a draft pick in the system. It's a model of reciprocity. We as a village, whether we are the advertising village or the technology village or the London village or the UK village, we get out what we put in. And we can sit here and we can talk about diversity and the challenges that we face, or we can get off our bums and volunteer at a school near us. If I ask you to do one thing today, is to consider signing up for Apps for Good or your local school. I was inspired. One of my last businesses before I fell out with VCs, I was flogging technology to retailers in the USA. And I would go into headquarters at places like Dollar General and I don't know, Costco and similar. And in every head office, as you walk into the head office, they have these plasma screens at reception. And on these plasma screens, they're announcing the schools in their local area where they go in and they mentor. Mentoring seems to be a way of life, a part of the American culture. We borrow so much from American culture, don't we? Look at the food that we eat and the shit that we watch on TV. We borrow so much of American culture. And if there's one bit of American culture I wish that British culture took more of, it's that we mentored more, that we give up a day, a year, a day, a month, a day, a quarter of our time, and we volunteer for Apps for Good, or for our local secondary school, or if you want to, at School of Communication Arts, or anything similar. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.